Hey, this is Archie, and today we're going to talk about how to target the right audience on TikTok. So if you've been using interests and if you've been testing tons and tons of lookalikes, but none of them really worked, then this video is something that you really have to pay attention to. So first, we have to understand that targeting is extremely important because yeah, you could have very good ad creatives, but if you're showing those ads to an audience that is not that interested, in that case definitely your cost to acquire that customer is going to be much higher. But what we want to do, what we're striving for all the time as a business owner or as an advertiser, is to lower those costs and to increase those return on ad spends. So first, let's kind of compare the targeting algorithms on Facebook and on TikTok to understand better what are the similarities and what are the kind of differences. Because if you're coming from Facebook and you want to start running ads on TikTok and it's your first campaign, then in that case you have to be aware that some things you want to approach is going to be differently on this platform. Now, in terms of the similarities, I noticed that very frequently, and this is generally speaking, of interest-based audiences and the broad audiences with no interest, they outperform all the other audiences such as custom audiences or lookalikes. But like I said, this is something more general. There are some exceptions, like in any kind of scenarios. If your business is based somewhere in Asia and most of your customers are, let's say, they are using Android, then in that case a lookalike based on 1% of your customers might work extremely well because the platform has lots of data about your customers. So this is pretty much very tailored to every single business because every brand is different out there, even it can be in the same industry. That's why you have to look at your brand and test those audiences. But I will give you specific recommendations on which audience you kind of have to start off because generally speaking, they are working the best. Now, in terms of the differences, I think that Facebook ad algorithms, they are smarter than the TikTok ad algorithms. That's why you could see in the beginning, you could start broad audience with a brand new ad account on Facebook and get extremely good results. On the other hand, with TikTok, you want to still season that pixel. You want to spend a couple of thousands and a couple of tens of thousands of dollars on this platform before you go broad. So first, I will start off with some interest-based audiences on TikTok. Now let's hop into the TikTok Ads Manager and see which audiences they have, because there are multiple options. There are 4 options that you could use for targeting your customer on TikTok, and let's break them down and understand which one actually resonates much more with your brand. So when you go to the TikTok Ads Manager and you go to the ad group level, which is similar to the ad set level on Facebook, then first thing first, we will see the custom audiences. Now this is something that we will not talk at this video. We'll talk more about the prospecting audiences, which kind of customers are going to convert best in terms of cold audiences. So first thing that we have to tackle is demographics. So when it comes to the location, do not overcomplicate it. Just go ahead and use the country that your target market is. If you are selling your products in the United States, use United States. If you are selling products in Europe, just add the countries that you want to target. That is as simple as it is. However, if your business is based in Europe and you want to target the people who live in the United States, you can't do that at this moment when I'm recording this video. Maybe in the future this is going to be updated, but like right now you have to be aware of that. One thing that you could do to overcome this problem is to have a person who is based in the United States and let him or her run ads from like where they are based. If you give them access to your ad account and they're based in the United States, then they will be able to target the United States. In my case, I am based in Europe, in Romania, and as you can see, I can target United States because this is one of my client ad accounts. Now, the next thing that we have to tackle is the gender. This is something that, again, I do not want you to overcomplicate it. If your main audience is male, 80-90% of your audience, your customers are male, go ahead and use male. If on the other hand, you have very kind of even or close to even in terms of your customer base, then just use all genders. Now let's talk about the age range. So something that I noticed is working much better is using audiences between 18 all the way down till 55 plus. And yes, even if you know that your main audience is, let's say, from 18 till 34, then I still recommend using much broader age range limits. Because if you're trying to limit too much and you make it your audience too narrowed, that definitely is going to make the performance worse for your ad sets and for your ads. Maybe something that you will ask me, why am I not using the age range between 13 to 17? These people, they're clicking lots and lots on these ads, and you're gonna see very low cost per click, but in terms of a conversion rate, that is much lower than the other age ranges. And that simply boils down to the fact that the younger generation, they don't really have the finances to buy your products. That's simply how it works. However, if you know that your target audience is also this younger generation, in that case, I'll go ahead and I will just use all age ranges. As for the languages, I never actually narrow down this by languages. I just use no limit, which is equal with all. Now, this is the most important thing that we have to tackle. So, like I said, we have 4 options to use for targeting. We have interests, we have behaviors, we have creator interactions in terms of, again, behaviors, and hashtag interactions. Let's start with video interactions. We'll go all the way down till hashtags interactions, and we'll end up with interests. Now, when it comes to the video interactions, basically what you can do is to target people who've watched till the end, liked, commented, and shared some videos related to a category that your products fall into. Let's say that your business is related to fashion. In this case, you could use something like lifestyle and beauty and style. And now you have to also select a time range, let's say 15 days. So now what algorithms understand based on these options that you're giving them is pretty much, hey, I want to go and target people who've watched till the end, liked, commented, and shared videos within this category. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Here's something that you have to be aware of when it comes to selecting this option. When you use video interactions, most of the time this audience will be included under the interests. So if you pretty much use interests, then you most likely are going to target also this audience as well. So it's not going to make much difference, and that's why I don't use it very often. Now let's go ahead and talk about the creator interactions. This sounds in theory very, very valuable, because what you can do is to target, right, person who is following or who is viewing or both some influencers or some content creators within, again, one category. Let's say again that we are selling fashion products. We could select fashion and beauty. So pretty much for the category, you just use the ones that are super relating to what you're selling. And I know that in theory sounds great because this sounds like a very valuable audience, but when I am using this type of audience, I just noticed from different testings that they are not working as well as, let's say, interests or broad audiences. My assumption is that this audience is pretty, not very small, but it's much smaller than, let's say, interests or broader audiences. That's why they're quite limited. In the beginning, you might have some results, but as you start scaling the ad set, in that case, the results, you will see how they eventually will die off. If you have an intention to scale aggressively your TikTok ads, then this is an option that I would actually ignore it. And kind of the same thing applies to the hashtag interactions. You simply add some hashtags that are related to your industry. For example, if you, let's say, again, are selling fashion products, you could use interests such as hashtag fashion brand, hashtag clothing. And yes, it's important to use broad hashtags if you're making them too narrowed. Again, the audience is going to be super narrowed, and in that case, the performance is way worse. Pretty much, you have to keep this in mind. TikTok algorithms, they are looking for a broader audience. And in just a moment, I'm gonna tell you what is the kind of ideal audience size, and maybe you'll kind of be blown away just from the first interaction that you are hearing this. Essentially with hashtags, I noticed it's happening the same thing as we have with content interactions. In the beginning, you might get some results. As you start scaling, the results kind of die off. That's why I'm looking more for interests or for audiences, let's say broad audiences, that are much more sustainable in terms of how much money they could still spend and while I'm getting a profitable return on net spend. After tackling these three options, I can tell you that in the majority of my ad accounts, I simply ignore them and I use interests or broad audiences. In the beginning, if that account is pretty new, I just use interests. Then eventually we start kind of transitioning to the broad audiences, because then our ad account, our pixel is much more seasoned and it has much more data, so it actually starts working better. When it comes to selecting which interest to use, then again I keep it extremely simple. So let's talk again about our example. We are selling fashion products. What we are going to use, it's simply apparel and accessories. Now you can of course click on this drop down, and most people what they do is they will deselect the interests that are not related to their products. If I'm selling clothing, I'm not gonna select let's say jewelry. Well, here's the thing, if you are deselecting these things, again the audience is going to be much smaller and the performance is not gonna be the same as you would use with all these interests. That's why I just use the entire interest group. I never actually deselect all the other interests that we have under this group, even though it might not make sense to your brand. Eventually what is going to happen over time, once that ad set is running and has been active for quite some time, TikTok is going to give you some suggestions about with what interest to add, and those suggestions are actually pretty good. Even sometimes it's not going to make a lot of whole of sense like we see here, but just by adding them I noticed an increase in sales. So that's something that you can pay attention to. And one thing that you also want to look closely at, which is going to increase those sales, and you just need to click just on some things, that's targeting expansion. You want to toggle this on. What this is doing is enabling to expand your audience that you've just selected here, and pretty much it can go above or beyond those interests that you selected. So pretty much usually what I do is I select interests and behaviors. I do not really use age, because I just want to make sure that I'm just showing my ads to that or age range that I selected. And now let's talk about the audience size. When it comes to the audience size, this actually depends a lot on where you are based and where you want to show your ads to, which country. If it's United States, if it's a country like big like United States, then you want to make sure that it says fairly broad. If it says something balanced or narrowed, which is the worst scenario, you definitely want to make sure that the audience size should be increased. Fairly broad would mean that the audience size should be above 100 million people. I know this is an audience size that sounds huge, but that's how I observed that the algorithms actually optimize your ads better and get much better results. And that's actually what we are looking for. We want just to bring as many results as possible with the lowest cost and with the highest return on net spends. So if it works, then I will just use what works. However, I know that if you are targeting countries in Europe, or if you're targeting Australia or some countries in Asia, then definitely, and yeah, usually the audience size is not going to say very broad. It's gonna say something like balanced. In that case, that's fine. That's okay, but make sure that you never try to narrow down your audience too much, so it says narrowed. In that case, 100% you will observe. You can put it alongside the same ad creative, one ad set with broad audiences and one ad set with narrowed audiences, and you will see how the results are extremely different. One is going to get way better results and way less costs, and the another one is gonna be just simply unsustainable for your business. Besides the targeting options that you are using on TikTok, here's something that you also need to make sure that you're working on. So again, let's compare Facebook ad algorithms with TikTok ad algorithms. On Facebook, 90% of your targeting is doing your ad creative. That is the biggest guidance for them. On TikTok, I would say that percentage is somewhere between 60 to 70%. Again, it's huge. That's why your creatives should be SEO driven, meaning is that you need to be super clear with what kind of products you're selling. You cannot distract your viewers on your videos with other products or with these noisy backgrounds, because that is going to be super difficult for algorithms to kind of find your ideal customer. And just from the creative side, you know that on TikTok, like these text overlays, they're extremely important. Especially you need to make sure that you're making them like very organic. You're using the text overlays that TikTok basically has. You don't try to make it super polished and things like that. You want at the end of the day to make kind of TikTok content and not ads. Those creatives will work much better. So it's very important to allocate enough time on brainstorming and thinking about what kind of creatives to run that are SEO driven and speaks exactly to my customer. That is going to give you a huge edge over your competitors, because most of them, they're not aware of this thing, but actually this is how it works. And there is a free resource from TikTok where you can go and see what kind of ads, what kind of ad creatives other brands are running, and you could filter them by the ad creative, by the ad goal, such as conversions or traffic, which is very good, because now you can select conversions and just look at creatives that other brands are running with this type of goal in mind. And if those ads, they've been featured there, then in that case, most likely they are working pretty well. So you could get inspired, not really copy, but get inspired and create some ads that are tailored to your brand message. I'll make sure I will add the link under this description so you can check that out. It's a very valuable resource that I'm using pretty much every single day. Essentially, your focus should be on improving your creatives and making them crystal clear to your TikTok algorithms and to your viewer. So pretty much this is a pen or this is a pair of shoes, and you never distract like your viewers and the algorithms with other things that are going on in your video, and that will definitely increase your chances of targeting the right type of customer. I hope this video was helpful, and if you still have some questions, let me know in the comments below. Now, if you're looking for a motivated and driven team to help you with your e-commerce sales through ads and through increasing your conversion rate, then in that case, book a discovery session call by following the link below. But before that, your business needs to make at least $15,000 per month. If you meet this criteria, then in that case, we might be able to help you to increase your sales. So if you are interested, click on the link below and we will talk soon. Until then, thanks very much for watching this video till the end, and I will talk to you in my next video.